Awesome. Well, hello to everybody. Welcome to this MISD technology training. My name is Josh Voiles. I'm an instructional technology coordinator with the district, and this is Fantastic Forms. And so today, well, the full title is Fantastic Forms and Where to Find Them. So this training is going to go over everything you could ever want to know about Google Forms. And this is a very beneficial tool to know for your teacher or really anybody, admin. You can take surveys with Google Forms, you can make quizzes. And so if you don't know how to use them, you definitely want to take advantage of this training. So let's just jump right into it today. I'm going to, I don't have much of a presentation because what I really want to do is just jump into Google Forms themselves and show you all. But what I do have is just a couple of topics that we're going to be talking about today before we jump in. We're going to be looking at question types. We're going to be looking at how to make sections, how to do that branching logic, those really robust forms where, you know, if you click a certain answer, then it'll take you to a whole nother part of the form. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to share, how to publish, even how to upload files to your form. So hopefully you're going to enjoy today's session. Also, I just want to make you aware of this slide, and for some reason it is not showing up. Let me see if I can refresh my my page here. If I can't get to it, this is basically a QR code. And let me see if I can get this to work here. This is a QR code. Here we go. So this is a QR code for you to be able to tell me how I did today. If you thought it was a good training or a bad training, tell us the good, bad, the ugly. So it's got a session ID there, which is 33100, and you can put in my name and let them know how I did. You do not need to fill this out to get credit for being here today. We are taking attendance whether you fill this out or not. So this is just for you to give feedback if you wish. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my presentation here. We're going to go right into Google Forms. So I'm going to open up a Google Forms. You can get to it just basically by going to your Gmail or your Google homepage and clicking the waffle. And Google Forms is the app. It's one of the Google apps right there. And when you get to there, you'll see all of these I have a lot of different forms. And so what I'm going to do, though, I'm just going to create a new form. And you can do that just by, I hope you all saw what I did there. Hopefully my screen, can everybody see my screen? Everything might be a little too small. Let me see if I can enlarge that just a bit. So you can create a new blank form just by clicking the Google+. And so now this opens up with Gemini, actually. It's Gemini trying to get you to use some templates and try out some things. I'm just going to close that out and go right to my form. So just starting off with the basics, this is how you create a new form. We're going to get into sharing it out later at the end. We're just going to go one step at a time here. So very basic. This starts off as an untitled form. So we could title our form here. So you would put the title here, whatever the title of your form is. And then the cool part is after you put your title, you can go over here and click on the title up on the top, and it will copy the title that you have in the form itself. Now, this title, you might be wondering, why are they different? Or could they be different? The answer is yes. And that's because you might want your responders to see a different title in the actual form when they open the link. This title up here that I'm highlighting is really just for you. So that's why you could have different names. I normally just keep mine exactly the same. Whatever the title is that the responder sees is the title that I'm giving the actual file. And keep in mind that that is actually going to go straight to your Google Drive as well. So this is the title of the file in Google Drive. This is the title of the actual form that you want your responders to see. Okay, we can add just a short description. That's what this first little box is for. It's really just for a title and description. You don't have to put a description, but you could give it a brief description here if you want to tell them, give them some like special instructions, especially if this is like a form that you're going to share with your students to fill out. Maybe they're going to you know, fill out a form for going to prom, or maybe this is like a special school assignment that you're using as a teacher. So you would give directions here. So I could put something like, please fill out the questions or answer the questions below, something like that. Very, very, very basic. That's what that's there for. Okay, so we've got our title, we've got our description. Let's talk about questions and question types. So you can see here, I've got my first question. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So we can basically put in here a question. So for instance, our question could be just an example question like, what is your favorite, whoops, if I could spell, your favorite ice cream flavor? Okay, just a goofy question to give you guys an example. Okay, now this is the question that they will see. This is the text that they will see of the question. Then we can click down here, and this is where they are going to fill in the answer. Now, if we click this drop down, you'll see there's all these different types of questions. These are our question types. We can have it as a short answer. And so basically they can just put in strawberry or vanilla, or we could leave it as a paragraph. This is something that you might do for a special assignment if you want them to provide a longer answer. We also have multiple choice, so we could click multiple choice and give them the option of, and this is where we'll fill in our choices. And we can have as many of these as we want. I think I'm just going to go with the standard 3 for the 3 main flavors of ice cream. So I'm just going to click add other, and I'm going to do that one more time, add other. And then we've got our 3 options. So we could do like vanilla. Is vanilla with 2 L's? Am I spelling that wrong? Chocolate and strawberry. Oops, we need one more. We're going to add one more option. So you have to click add option. So hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory. We can always, we can even add an image. So I could add an image of vanilla ice cream, chocolate here, and strawberry ice cream here for each of those choices. And then if I wanted to add more, I could add all the other flavors by just continuing to add more options. If I decide I want to get rid of an option, I just click remove this X for remove. So I could limit that literally just to vanilla. We also have check boxes, which basically they can check more than one, where a multiple choice will only let you do one. You can choose a drop down. This has come really in handy for like if I've created forms and I wanted to give the option of to the responder to choose like a certain campus. So I would list out all of our campuses here in all of these options. So that's what a drop down will allow you to do. And when they click on this question, they'll see all of the choices and then they'll just choose one from the drop down. Now, here is where we can actually upload a file. I thought that this was really cool as part of the question types. It says files will be uploaded from the form owner's Google Drive, which is my Google Drive. Respondents will be required to sign in to Google when file upload questions are added to a form. Make sure to only share this form with people you trust. So I'm going to click continue. And the cool part here is that I can actually upload a file here. I can view the folder with this little this blue Google Drive view folder button, and that will take me to the folder where all of these files will be housed. So I'll have to put my file, whether it's a PDF or what have you, into this folder. But you can see here it actually already labeled what is your favorite ice cream, because that's just what I had called the question. So that's just as an example, because it's going to take whatever the question is labeled or whatever the question is. And so we can actually allow only specific file types. And if I toggle this switch, you'll see I can allow maybe a PDF or an image. And I don't want them to be able to submit a video or an audio or a document. Maybe I want them to be able to do a doc. but like a spreadsheet. So I'm basically being able to choose what kind I want. Now, if this is like a specific, say you're a media or a graphic design or an art teacher or something like that, maybe you want them to be able to upload a presentation or a drawing or an audio. So I could click all of these and allow all of these different types of submission into that folder that it created. And then when they answer the question, they will be able to upload a file to this question. Pretty cool, right? And then I can give a maximum number of files. So maybe I only want them to submit one file. And then this I could choose, like if it's a video that I want them to submit, I could bring this up to 10 gigabytes. So I can limit the file size just to save space. So I thought that that was a really cool file type, question type, I should say. We also have the rating, and that's kind of similar to linear scale, basically on a scale from 1 to 5, and they can choose one of these stars to say, you know, like for instance, if I wanted to send out a question and say, hey guys, how did I do on the training today? I could say rate this training on a scale of 1 to 5, and then you as the responder would be able to choose like that. Okay, there's some other question types. I'm not going to go into those, but just be aware. I highly recommend go in there and check those out. You might find it very helpful to use some of those other types. But we're going to go ahead and move on. The next thing we can do is I want to show you guys how to add multiple questions. So what I can do is I can duplicate this question by just clicking. I don't know if you guys saw what I did there. There's this little paper icon that says duplicate. So if I want to duplicate the question, that way I don't have to redo the question type. Maybe I want it to be the same question type as the first question. So say if you have a few questions that are all going to be the same, whether they're short answer or, you know, this rating system, you can duplicate, and that makes it easier. However, we can also come in here and just add a new question with our little floating menu on the right side. So here is where I can add a new question with this little plus. So this adds a new blank question. So now I would have to come in here and choose the question type if I wanted to change it. And then of course on each of these, I can go back and click and change. So I could make my second question is why do you like the ice cream you chose? So for instance, that's how I would create a new question. And I can always go in here and obviously change that back to another type and give them a short answer so they can explain. Now, right here on each question, if I click on each question, you can see that this should default to required. This is basically going to, if you toggle this switch that says required, that is going to keep them from moving on in the form to the next question until they answer the question. So typically, I like to keep that toggled on. I want them to answer my questions because that's kind of the whole point usually of sending out a form. However, if there's a question that you want to be optional for them, where they don't have to answer that question if they don't want to, you can toggle that off, and this question will be seen by the responder, but they will not be required to answer the question. And I can just keep adding questions, add as many questions as I want. So that is how you add questions and how you choose your question type, or like what type of a question you're going to ask them. The next thing I want to show you is also on this floating menu, we have what's called sections. So what I can do is click add a section. So if you guys can see, if I'm just going to come in here, I'm going to remove this question and this question. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have it as one question in this first section. So you can see now what I have is I can have as many questions as I want, and I can have as many questions as I want in each section. So under section 2, I can add another question and have as many questions as I want under section 2. And what I end up with are these little tab, kind of like folder tabs on the top, kind of in this purple color here. And it says I've got section 1 of 2 and section 2 of 2. So I could divide up my questions into section, and that just kind of helps your responder to it kind of resets them and reframes them if you have a lot of questions, or if this is like an academic form that you're having them fill out for like an assignment. Maybe you want to have multiple sections so that they know that you're moving from one topic to another. So I can title this section. So say, for instance, you're asking, you're doing a quiz like over history. Maybe this could be chapter 1, and then I could have another section and call this chapter 2. And maybe I'm just going to cover, 2 or 3 chapters in this quiz, or 2 or 3 topics in this form. So just as an example, that's how you could label your sections. Now, using sections might seem a little frivolous at first, and possibly they are, but this actually leads us into a really interesting part of the training here. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just delete these questions that I'm going to go ahead and delete this section 3 here that I created. And so what this leads us to is really the main reason you would want to use a section is because of something called branching. So or what we call it in forms as well as branching logic. And so what you can actually use your form is to create a really robust survey where if they choose a specific answer on a question, then that will take them to a whole nother part of the form. So let me show you what let me try to explain to you what I'm saying here. So basically, let's say here that we have a question. I'm going to add a question. Now, the important thing to remember is that branching logic or branching forms will only work with, I believe, 2 different types of questions. It has to be either a multiple choice or a checkbox. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Multiple choice or checkbox as the only 2 question types that will work for branching logic, where it'll take them to another section based on their answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose multiple choice. And as an example, I'm going to go ahead and type out a question. So for instance, let's say you're doing a survey and you want to know what is your greatest challenge in teaching. This is just sheerly an example. Or let's just put as a professional, question mark. Okay, so now what we have is we're going to add our options. So the first option, let's say for instance, we'll just put workload / procrastination. What did I spell that wrong? Procrastination. Okay, our second option could be, let's say, work-life balance. Okay. And then our third option can be email. This is sheerly just as an example. These might be really bad examples, but just so you can see. Okay, so we've got our 3 multiple choice, and depending on which answer they choose, it's going to take them to a whole another part of the form. So if they chose like option 2, work-life balance, then that could take them to a whole different set of questions in the form than they would have seen if they chose the first option, workload procrastination. So what I can do is, and once again, you want to make sure that this is required. For these types of questions, make sure you toggle on required. That way it will make sure that they don't go to the next part or see another section that they're not supposed to see. So now on these 3 little dots you see here on my question, I want to choose go to section based on answer. And as soon as I click I check that on, then I get some more options next to each choice. So next to workload procrastination, I can say go to section 2. And preferably you would want to title these first. So for section 2, I'm going to do workload. Okay, we're going to go ahead and create another section. So I've got section 2 of 3, section 3 of 3, and this will be work life. And I'm just titling these to match my questions, my question choices. And then the last is, what was it? Email management. Okay. So now I've got my 3 sections, and each of these are going to have more questions inside of them. Okay, so just to show you as an example, on each of these, I can go ahead and add a blank question. Okay, because I can fill all of these out with questions about email management or work life or workload. Okay, but now I'm going to go back to that original question where I'm taking them from the beginning where it starts to branch out. So on workload, if I toggle down, I'm going to choose go to section 2, workload. On work-life balance, I'm going to say continue to section 3, work life. And then for email management, I'm going to say go to section 4, email management. And the reason why I am taking them to section 2, 3, and 4 instead of 1, 2, and 3 is because, remember, the very beginning of the form is with my first question is section 1. So you want to be, that's why I went ahead and labeled these first. You want to be very, very careful what you are linking to what choice when you create branching forms. So just a little bit of a tip there. Go ahead and label your sections first. There is a really cool part that I like. So let's say I'm on the second to last section of work life, and I say, you know what, I think I want to add a new section. And now I've added section 4 of 5, and then email management becomes section 5 of 5. Well, the cool part is you don't have to worry about these getting mixed up. If you notice back here on my original question on the third option, email management, that updated to go to section 5, which is email management. So don't worry about that, because once you link it to a new section, it will follow that section. So that's just another quick tip. But hopefully this is making sense, because basically what's happening with the branching logic in forms is that conceptually it is branching out, but you have to be careful because visually everything in the form is going to be linear. So you want to make sure that you're paying close attention to what options you're linking to what sections. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, so now so far what I would like to do is, before I publish this, I would like to preview it. So what you can do is actually come over here on the side, and we can see the little eye. We can do preview, and this will open up a new tab, and this is going to show us so far what our form looks like. So here I've got my ice cream, which has nothing to do with professionalism, right? But then on our second example, we've got what is your greatest challenge. So if I choose first option, workload procrastination, and then I click next, oh, it's going to make me fill out this first question. Okay, I'm going to click next. And check it out. It goes to that next section, which is workload. And I haven't programmed any questions into there. But so far, this is looking perfectly exactly the way that I wanted it to look. So keep in mind that you can always preview that by clicking the eyeball there at the top. Okay. We are almost through. Hopefully this training won't take too long. I think this is pretty simple to understand, even if you've never done it before. Hopefully you won't be afraid to try branching logic in your own forms. So let's go ahead. The next thing that I want to show you is the settings. So what we can do is we go back up to the top here. We're going to click on the settings button. Here's a really cool part that you may not have known about, is that actually you can use quizzes, you can use Forms, Google Forms as quizzes as a teacher, and this will actually connect. You can share this as an assignment in your Google Classroom. I'll even show you how to do it from Google Classroom here in just a second. But that's what this first part in the settings is make this a quiz. And so I can toggle this on, and it says you can assign point values, set answers, and automatically provide feedback. Here I can say release grades immediately after each submission. So after a responder submits their form, they will immediately get their grade, or I can choose later after manual review. So that means I, as the teacher, get to review that first, and then I can release the grade. This is a really cool option right here called lock mode. It says respondents aren't allowed to open tabs or other applications while taking the quiz. So that's pretty cool. I can toggle that on if I want them to. Also, just keep in mind that they must take this quiz on a managed Chromebook, which obviously we have that, but they have to, just so you know, they have to take it on a Chromebook. We have some options for missed questions, if they can see if they missed it or if they got it incorrect. Respondents can see correct answers after grades are released, and then the point values. And then here we've got our default question point value. It's kind of a scale, and we can choose how many points for every question. Okay, so that's just a quick little, I'll let you guys go into that more on your own, but just so you know, as a teacher, you can set up a form to be a quiz, which is very handy. Here under settings, we can go into responses. You want to be able to collect email addresses. I usually use this on, leave this on verified. Okay. Send responders a copy of their response. A lot of, like, if you're working in admin, you might want to allow them to, you know, see their responses. You can have this set to where it'll send them an email. Okay. And then there's some other things. We won't go into all of these, but that's basically what you can do with settings. And then there's also some form defaults where also you can choose to collect verified email addresses. And so if you go to default, though, just keep in mind that this will be applied to every new form that you create. So usually I'll leave this off, and then whenever I'm creating a new form, I'll choose what I want specifically for that form under the responses. Okay, so yeah, that default section is basically for the whole app of forms, if that makes sense. Okay, last but not least, actually, no, I do have a couple more things I want to show you guys, but hopefully it won't take too long. So we looked at settings. Let's go over here to publish. So this big purple publish button, this is kind of where it can get tricky because Google keeps changing these things. And so I'm going to hopefully clear up any confusion that there might be about this. Actually, very easy. So let's say I've got all of my form filled out. I've got all the questions, and I want to go ahead and make this live where people can respond. I'm going to go ahead and click publish. You're going to see this little window pop up, and it says basically responders. It says anyone with the link, but I can change that. I can go in here to manage that. And so basically this is where I can choose who is going to be able to do what when they respond. You'll see here, I've got people with access. So basically I'm the owner, and I can add other people. Say for instance, if I want to add Sherry, and I can make her either a responder or an editor, but this, and then she will appear right here. So I'm going to go ahead and add Sherry, make her an editor, and then click send. So now she is an editor on this page, but I still haven't published it. So that is how you can share the editing rights. You can also come up to this little person with the plus and add people in that way. It'll basically take you to the exact same place where you're adding people that you want to be able to edit. And so what that's going to do is it's going to allow them to open this up where they can come in here and they can put in their own questions. They can change the wording. They can actually edit the form. So what a lot of people do is you have to be really careful is a lot of people get confused between editing access and giving people responder access, which basically means they just click on a link and they're able to take the quiz or fill out the form. Okay, so you want to be careful you're not sharing the wrong links with the wrong people. So let's go back in here into published. We're going to go back to manage again. Okay. And so now you see this section called general access. This is where we can actually go to the responder view. This responder view, you can remove the link. And so that's going to put it on restricted. So basically no one will be able to respond. Now, that might seem weird, but this actually is pretty good if you have like a certain deadline and you don't want students or people that you've shared this with to be able to respond after a certain time. You can go ahead and turn that off. But let's say we want to go ahead and have people responding. So we can come in here and choose anyone with the link. And then we can copy the responder link. And then we can click done. So this responder link right here is the link that you want to share for students or people to be able to just fill it out without editing it. You're just letting them take the quiz basically, or fill out the form or fill out the survey. This is the link that you want to grab. And then we'll just click done. Okay. We can also click it from that, just that main part that we were on right here. Just copy responder link. I really like this option that it gives. There's a checkbox here that says shorten URL. And the reason why I like that is because if you want to take this into Canva and make that into a QR code where they can scan the QR and be taken to the form to respond, the shorter the link, then that means the less complex, or you know, the little squares in the QR codes, the longer that responder link is, the more smaller those squares are going to get. So if you want a very basic, easy to scan QR code, you can choose shorten URL and then copy that. It'll be the exact same link as if you just click copy responder link. And then we'll click save. Okay, so that's great. And then also we've got a chain link right here. It's the exact same exact same way. So this chain is the responder, and once again, the person with the plus icon, that is to add people to edit. So just so you know, don't get confused between those two. We can click on publish, copy responder link, or just the chain link, and that's how you can invite people to fill out your survey. Okay. So hopefully that clears up any issues you might have been having with sharing. Let's go to the last part here. I want to talk about responses. So here is where we will go. Let's say we've shared out our form. We have people filling it out, giving us the feedback that we're looking for. You're going to come over to here in responses. It's the second tab. And right now, of course, I have 0 responses because this is a brand new form. I haven't had anybody tell me their favorite ice cream yet. But what we can do is, if they had, you can click this button that says link to sheets. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose create a new spreadsheet, and it's going to be titled of the same title of the form. And I'm going to click create. And so now what that's going to do is it's going to open up a brand new window with a Google Sheet. And it's going to show me every single person that fills out the form in this sheet. And right here, I've got a timestamp of when they fill it out. I'm recording their email address, so all of the email addresses will appear here. And then I'll get to see what everyone's favorite ice cream color is and what their greatest professional challenge, and then even all of their responses on those branching, on the branching questions, those branching choices. So as people fill out my form, I will see their responses filling into this sheet, this Google Sheet here. Really cool. So hopefully that helps you out. I do want to show you one other thing before I let you go today. If I go to my Google Classroom, here is I have a demo astronomy class. It's just an example class. I can come over here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm going to come over here to classwork. I'm going to create a new assignment, and I'm going to create a quiz assignment. This is where you can actually create a Google form quiz right from your classroom. Here, it's a blank quiz. I can actually open up this quiz and rename it, but right now I'll just leave it as that as an example. You would obviously title and give instructions just the way you would with any other assignment. Here, I'm going to toggle on grade importing, which basically is saying I'm going to import the grades from the form to my Google Classroom. But remember, you want to set all of that up the way I showed you over in the form first. And I'm glad I showed you all of that, because this I don't think will work unless you specify all of that in your form. Classroom can import grades for assignments. Grade importing automatically limits each form to one response per user, collects email addresses, and restricts responses to users in your domain. So just so you know, that's what is going to happen with the grade importing. And then also I have this option that I had in the form as well, which is lock mode, where they can only view the form if they're taking it as a quiz, as long as they're on a Chromebook. So you toggle that on, and then you click assign, and you've got and then over here, you can also set up your grading as well. So you would click assign, and that would shoot your students to your Google form. And so that is basically it for today's lesson. I want to thank you all for joining me. You're more than welcome to stick around here if you have any questions, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording for YouTube. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.